is delivering real results. We are building Jamaica. The time by the Office of the Prime Minister is
5:30, family time.
Good evening, and welcome everyone. Welcome to those on Love 101 FM, Facebook, and YouTube Live. This is Family Time. Family Time is about your issues and your relationships. It's about your at home family, your community family, and yes, your global family. Family Time is produced by Family Life Ministries, and our aim is to enable healthy families, which will lead to healthy nations. So stay with us and please connect with us via all our platforms. Friend us on Facebook at FLM Family Life Ministries. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Family Life Ministries FLMJA, and on Instagram. Keep up with what's happening at Simply FLMJA. Just a friendly reminder that while Family Time is a family program, we'd like to caution that it may, on the odd occasion, touch on what some may consider mature subject matters. Your discretion is advised. I'm Audra Williams, and here's something interesting. While there are no explicit instructions on the duration of breastfeeding, the Bible does show that it was the norm for mothers to breastfeed their infants, and weaning typically occurred when the child was a toddler. You would never guess the age. 3 years old. Now, fast forward to 2025. From expectations and pressure to moments of struggle and pride, breastfeeding is a shared experience across many households, from Jamaica to Trinidad, the UK, and Pakistan, to living anywhere abroad. The journey often starts the same way, with high hopes, mixed advice, and a few surprises. Join us as we look at the topic breastfeeding, part 2. Real talk, what mothers are saying and wish they knew. Today, we hear directly from mothers who have lived it, and we want you to join in. So, we're asking the same question we asked last week. What was the hardest thing for you when it was time to breastfeed? And of course, we would like to hear from our males about how they felt when their partner had to breastfeed. Send your answers via WhatsApp text and WhatsApp voice notes to 876-997-3125. Please ensure that your voice notes are no longer than 30 seconds. And you can also call our studio lines at 876-968-8327 or 876-968-8328. You can also watch us and comment live on Love 101 FM Facebook and Love 101 FM YouTube. Get your questions ready for our very special guests. You remember Professor Maya Clark Kutaya? We also have Thera Edwards and Rochelle Clark. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back soon.
Sometimes all we need is a listening ear. The listening ear, the counseling, the logical reasoning, and spiritual guidance are what appeal to us. That's why I'm here. I'm Dr. Joan Pinkney, the counselor, your counselor on Love 101 FM, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 10 to 11 p.m. You know you can call on me. I will listen and more. So let's talk about what's bothering you. Anything. Tune in, listen, call in, text or voice message. I'm Dr. Joan Pinkney, counseling psychologist, ready with a listening ear. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 10 to 11 p.m. Right here on the family station, Love 101 FM.
Welcome back to Family Time on Love 101. And welcome to our very special guest, Professor Maya Clark Kutaya, Assistant Professor, NYU Rory Myers College of Nursing and Grossman School of Medicine, and a mother of 3. ages 6, 9, and 10. We also have Thera Edwards, mother of a 14-year-old daughter, and Rochelle Clark, mother of a 20-month-old boy. Welcome, ladies. How are you?
I'm
Well,
doing
thank you for
well.
having us.
And thank you for being here. Remember our feedback question, viewers, listeners. We want to hear from you. What was the hardest thing for you when it was time to breastfeed? WhatsApp, text, and voice notes to 876-997-3125. And try to keep the voice notes to 30 seconds, please. Send your answers via WhatsApp, text, and WhatsApp voice notes to 876-997-3125. And you can also call our studio lines at 876-968-8327 or 876-968-8328. You can also watch us and comment live on Love 101 FM Facebook and Love 101 FM YouTube. Let's get going. Breastfeeding Part 2. Real talk. What mothers are saying and wish they knew. That's our topic today. Now, many mothers go into breastfeeding with a picture in their mind. Then the baby comes, and things don't exactly go according to plan. So let's open up that conversation, and we would really like to get into the meat of the matter. And the first question that I have is, what did you think breastfeeding would be like before the baby came, and what actually happened in those first few months? So I'll ask Rochelle to go ahead, and then Thera, you can go after her.
So, for my experience, before the baby arrived, I did a lot of research. I was asking other mothers who were close to me about their experience. And I, after reading everything and hearing everything that everyone had to say, I walked away with a very balanced mindset. Like, okay, breastfeeding may or may not work for you, but it's okay. Once the baby is fed, that's the most important thing. And be prepared. So I had pumps, I had nursing bras ready, I had the ointments and the creams they recommended, and I got some formula from a very good friend of mine.
Mhm.
And I was just like, okay, whatever happens, happens. I'm gonna try my best. And it was very challenging at first, going in the
Right.
first few days, it was like, oh, child, but I, I did the best that I could.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You can go ahead.
Right. So I delivered my baby at the University of the West Indies Hospital, UHWA, and I went to their prenatal classes leading up to delivery.
Yeah.
And it's a baby-friendly hospital, so they made it clear that as far as possible, they were there to encourage and support breastfeeding. So went in. I had a C-section delivery.
Okay.
A little earlier than we wanted to have done it, not by too far. But I went in, and actually, while still in the delivery suite, my baby was brought to me, my daughter was brought to me, and they encouraged me to, to get the latching on process started right there. And they were very helpful, the nurses, in terms of getting the correct latch and the positioning,
Awesome.
and monitoring things like, moving through the stages from colostrum to, full milk development. So that was a very supportive environment for me. And when I was discharged after 3 days, I was actively producing milk, and I did not need to have any real support in terms of breastfeeding. Did have one day when I was a little tired. When you talk about the challenges, I was exhausted, and I thought baby was sleeping happily, and baby had actually had developed hypoglycemia and needed a little formula to, bring her around, because she had missed a feeding also. while I was happily sleeping. But that was my one sort of anxious moment. But being mindful after that, I kind of ensured that I was feeding on demand, and it was a smooth process for me.
I'm glad to
I was lucky.
I'm glad to hear those very positive comments. Now, Prof. Kutai, I'm going to ask you to separate your profession for a little bit and talk about your experience, what you expected as a mother, your first child, and after the child was born, what you experienced, what happened.
So I did not have any role models for this. My mother, aunts, grandmother, none of them breastfed. I didn't know about the health benefits because of my clinical practice, but kind of went in the complete opposite of the way you would think I would have. I didn't look up anything. I didn't have a plan. I was like, whatever happens, happens, because I didn't know how it was going to go, given that no one else in my family had ever tried to breastfeed before. I unfortunately had my son prematurely, my firstborn. And so some of the choice was taken from us. He spent some time in the intensive care unit. So while he was in the intensive care nursery, I was pumping, he was getting formula. It was a whole debacle back and forth. It ended up being a lot of work all the way through, to the point that he was doing kind of half and half. So he did half formula, half breast milk, and did not nurse ever, really. So I pumped exclusively for the full year that he was on breast milk. So while some of my colleagues and friends were talking about all these great bonding experiences they had breastfeeding, my child was like, I'm not doing that. He wasn't having any of it, and I just had to go with it.
How did that make you feel, though?
I felt like a failure. I'm not going to lie. I did. I felt like it was, you're put on this earth to do two things: birth babies and feed them. And I couldn't do either of them without help. So how, I did. I cried a lot. I remember one night very early after we brought him home, he cried. I mean, just incessantly. I could not get him to stop crying. And our dog came up from downstairs and literally sat in the doorway of the room like, you got to do something about this. And I just started talking to her. I was like, I'm trying. I don't know what else to do. But then, it took some time before I really realized he's going to be fine. Regardless.
I wanted to add something because how do you pronounce your name?
Maya.
Maya. Okay. So Miss Maya was talking about, I had a similar situation where the baby was not latching. And so I had a lactation consultant in the hospital. She came and she was helping me. And she was like, you have inverted nipples, so I'm not sure this is going to work out for you. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, oh my God, okay. And so I was pumping and giving the baby that. And they gave me a bit of formula at the same time. And so that was helping him out. But it didn't come as natural as I thought that it would. And that made me feel a little bit like, oh my God, like this is not going to work for me, really, after I've done all this preparation. But once again, I went back to that balanced mindset where it's like, remember, we game plan this just in case it don't work. You have what you need. So I had to go back to that.
Okay, so basically we have a continuum. We have the extremes at both ends, and then we have the middle person. And I'd like to say hi to Charlene. And Nicole is saying, my coworker. I'm assuming that she's making reference to Prof. Kutaya. But ladies, these are very interesting stories. But before I continue into anything more, I'm going to throw for the break because I know we have lots to say. So remember to answer our feedback question. What was the hardest thing for you when it was time to breastfeed? We're looking forward to what you have to say. Send your answers via WhatsApp text and WhatsApp voice notes to 876-997-3125 and try to keep the voice notes no longer than 30 seconds. And you can send those voice notes and the text to 876-997-3125. Now, and you can also call our studio lines at 876-968-8327 or 876-968-8328. You can also watch us and comment live on Love 101 FM Facebook and Love 101 FM YouTube. And just so you know, the numbers for the FLM head office in Kingston are 876-920-1034 or 876-926-8101. Stick around for more insight, experiences, and advice from our guests, Professor Maya Clark Kutaya, Thera Edwards, and Rochelle Clark. We'll be back soon.
The time by Grace Good Move is
5:45.
Brunswick, tuna the only option. Give me the one thing, no me no want a fraction. Brunswick tuna, morning, night or noon. Me say me ready for the action. Brunswick tuna, they on me plate. Now they eat it for dinner, have now the morning for me breakfast. You can have it anytime, anyway, with couple slice of bread or crackers. What's convenient, taste good and affordable. Brunswick tuna, love tuna. Me under the pitney in a school. Chunky Nile, spicy Thai chili chunk in water. Brunswick tuna, snacking made easy, snacking made tasty, snacking made healthy. Turn the flame up and take you to 100.
This summer, we're turning up the love across Jamaica. It's the Double the Love Summer Tour with Love 101.
Everything a double.
Join us in 5 parishes for live broadcast of the Gospel Train and Youth Connection, plus community cook-offs, family sports, games, and good vibes from Portmore to St. Thomas, Manchester, Mobile, and Kingston.
I'm about to have a good day.
We're spreading faith, fun, and fellowship island-wide. And it all ends with a big back-to-school grand finale in Kingston. The Double the Love Summer Tour, powered by Love 101, the family station. Don't you miss it.
God made the universe, knows me by my name, so it's a good day.
We're in the hurricane season and the hottest time of the year. But no worries, Lanco has you covered. By the way, you're covered with Lanco Cool Guard or Urethanizer roof coating yet? Use Lanco roof coatings to waterproof your roof and also benefit from a cooler home with our advanced Thermoflex technology. Get 10 to 20% discount on Lanco Urethanizer and Cool Guard roof coating island-wide this hurricane season. Lanco, your waterproofing expert.
Welcome back. We're talking about breastfeeding, and this is the part 2 edition. Real talk, what mothers are saying and wish they knew. This is Family Time on Love 101 FM. We want you to tell us what was the hardest thing for you when it was time to breastfeed. Our guests are Professor Maya Clark Kutaya, Thera Edwards, and Rochelle Clark. Breastfeeding often comes with advice from a lot of people. But before we get into the different advice that we got, I want us to talk about what would we tell our past selves. So if we were able to go back in time to let our past selves know a message that we think would be important in our breastfeeding journey, what would that be? So I'd start off with Prof. Kutaya and then to Thera, then Rochelle.
Say that last part again. What would
you tell your past self? If you
I thought that's what you said. I just want to make sure.
Okay.
I would tell my past self that it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay, that you're doing the right things for the right reasons, and it doesn't always look perfect, but it is what they need when they need it. Okay. And however that comes to be, to let it go, because that was my hardest.
To let it go. Yeah, I can understand that. Thera, you can go ahead.
I think I would have rested more. I found that the breastfeeding on demand, as I was instructed, is exhausting. You're up all night and you are feeding throughout the day, and it's an extremely exhausting time. And then you get contradictions, so that at one point, you're breastfeeding on demand, and then you take baby in for a wellness check, and they point to the chart and they say baby's gaining too much weight, you need to hold back. And you're like, how do I get a baby that's been feeding on demand every 2 to 3 hours? How do you hold back? So I had that as a sort of a pivot to where you start with a relatively small 6 pound plus baby that's suddenly, doubling and nearly, tripling weight in a matter of, weeks. Instead of having a nice sort of slant to the curve, you sort of, turn upwards. So the weight gain was rapid. And then I was told, this kind of weight gain is not sustainable. So you need to hold back. So, there are these contradictions, and definitely the rest factor. I mean, I remember one night when it was like, I have to feed again. And I was just like, but I want to sleep. And I was just so out of it. I was like, I don't want to do this. I just really want to sleep tonight. But then you kind of, do what you have to do.
Yeah.
So those were some of my moments.
And that's what you would tell your past self.
Get some rest and be prepared to get, different instructions. So you're going from get the baby latched on, feed on demand, whenever the baby wants, feed, to the weight gains a little bit too rapid. We have to adjust a bit.
Okay. All right. Rochelle, you can go ahead.
Yes, I would tell my past self to get a deep freezer because I was an overproducer.
Oh, wow.
I had so much milk. My freezer was packed to the brim. I'm talking about over 30 bags of 6 to 8 ounces of milk. And my husband,
to have that.
it was a lot. My husband was at some point like, we have to send some of these to my mom because it's too much. I don't have place for meat. I don't have place for nothing else, Rochelle. And I was like, oh my God. So one thing that I kind of regret a little bit was that I didn't donate some of that milk to other babies that needed it. There was just so much happening, like as Sarah spoke about the exhaustion, and things go so fast. Like it's every 2 hours and it's so demanding, and it's like I was thinking about donating and I just didn't have the time to get myself together to read something and put myself together to do that. But if I had prepared better, I probably would have been able to do that, but that's one of my only regrets.
Okay. I think personally for me, I had a good time breastfeeding my son. I never had a problem with latching. There were a couple of times when I didn't latch properly and it just did not feel good. And to have to breastfeed through that achy, sore nipple was difficult. But I got some suggestion from someone to just put the milk on the nipple and it would heal it right away. And boy, I didn't know it would work, but it did work quite well. But we do have some comments. Wonderful. And we also have a voice note. So there's a comment that says, good afternoon. Does sugar intake as a mother affect a breastfeeding baby? So that question would probably go to either Thera or Prof. Kutaya. So either of you can answer.
I'm wondering if they're asking about eating too much sugar. If that's the case, in theory, no. The amount of sugar that you consume shouldn't really impact the infant because your pancreas is doing what it's supposed to do, and so it's metabolizing the sugar. What I've seen more often and experienced myself were different foods that made the I see Thera like, yeah, there were definitely different foods that made the baby
chicken. I had to give up curry
super
chicken.
angry.
You had to give up curry chicken because of the griping?
Yes. Yes, my
Yeah.
daughter did not like when I had curry chicken. So while I was breastfeeding in like the early months, curry chicken was a no-no. And that was one of my favorite foods. And it was a friend of mine who made the connection for me. She said, "Do you realize that every time you have curry chicken, that your daughter gets all fussy and gripe and so on?" And I was like, "Oh." So, I had to put the curry chicken aside. So yes, that I can swear by.
I think the one caveat would be for those who are, have diabetes or the baby has, some issue metabolizing, but typically no. Eat what you like.
Well,
This Tuesday, August 12 on The Rock, we dive deep into the roots of African spirituality, Rastafari, Voodoo to Ashanti. African spirituality spans continents and cultures. But as Christians of African descent, how do we relate to these practices? What are these belief systems really about? Which parts challenge the Bible's teachings and which parts have we misunderstood? Join Kari Heron and Donna Hussey Stewart for a powerful, eye-opening discussion that doesn't shy away from the hard questions. And in our No Time Revelation segment, could Ezekiel 38 and 39 be unfolding right now in the Middle East? What does the Bible say? All this and more on The Rock, Tuesday, August 12, here on the family station, Love 101.
Sometimes all we need is a listening ear. The listening ear, the counseling, the logical reasoning, and spiritual guidance are what appeal to us. That's why I'm here. I'm Dr. Joan Pinkney, the counselor, your counselor on Love 101 FM, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 10 to 11 p.m. You know you can call on me. I will listen and more. So let's talk about what's bothering you. Anything. Tune in, listen, call in, text or voice message. I'm Dr. Joan Pinkney, counseling psychologist, ready with a listening ear. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 10 to 11 p.m. Right here on the family station, Love 101 FM.
Here's why you can't afford to miss the Morning Watch.
I love listening to the Morning Watch because topics are discussed and issues are highlighted that are of major importance, which in turn edify me.
The Morning Watch, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
I like listening to the Morning Watch. I find it very informative. I find it very interesting. The topics that are covered are very, very wide.
I'm Itana, and human trafficking is everybody's business. Call 1-888-PROTECT to report suspected cases of child trafficking.
The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6 o'clock.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
Remix the summer with Digicel. 100 lucky winners win $100,000 each, plus surprises all summer. To enter, buy a SIM 7-day plan or higher. Switch to Digicel. Be an active postpaid or Digicel Plus customer, or receive US $15 or more from abroad. Gift a friend a plan. They could win $25,000. Remix the summer with Digicel. Authorized under Section 58 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act. Promo ends September 15, 2025. Conditions apply. Visit DigicelJamaica.com for more info. Digicel, better connected this summer.
This message is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Do you have the financing to support a long-term investment program in water? And the answer to that is yes, because we have managed the economy in such a way as to be able to do that. We deliberately make a point of every week either breaking ground, handing over, turning on, not announcing, because it shows you the track record of delivery. So you can have faith in that yes, you don't have it now, but there is a program in place backed by good fiscal management so that they can project the revenues into the future to support the future project. And that's what you want. You want government policy with endurance.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Let's welcome back our special guest, Professor Maya Clark-Kutaya, Assistant Professor at the NYU Rory Myers College of Nursing and Grossman School of Medicine, and a mother of three, ages 6, 9, and 10. Thera Edwards, mother of a 14-year-old daughter, and Rochelle Clark, mother of a 20-month-old boy. My apologies, I had some technical difficulties. However, we're going to get right into the voice note where we left off, and then we're going to come back with our conversation.
Good afternoon. Very interesting topic. I love it, and I'm listening and learning. So my hardest time in breastfeeding is having a baby for the first time, and there was no nipple for the baby to grip on. So that was very hard. It painful. However, I have to endure because I want the baby to, in order to get the milk from the breast. The nurse tell me that, Mommy, you have to put all the breast in the baby mouth so the baby can pull the nipple out. I did not have any nipple, and it was super, super painful. Nevertheless, I overcome it, so that is good.
So I'm assuming that she's talking about having the inverted nipple.
Yes. Me and her, the same situation.
And we actually have another comment. It says, "Good evening. First time mom. My baby's 5 years old. She was breastfed for 2 years and 8 months. The most difficult part was the sore nipples. I love my baby, but I would sit and watch her knowing it's time to feed again and was ready to give her formula because my nipples were basically hanging on by a muscle. Was told by my mom and grandma that it would heal by itself. There were days when I had to mentally prepare myself." Boy, yes, we totally can understand that. And so we are going to continue with our discussion. Was there a time when you thought about giving up, much like the guest or the viewer who would have said that, I just want to tap out right now. I don't want to do this. Was there ever a time that you thought about giving up, and what was happening, and how did you work through it? How did you push on and persevere? And I throw that one to Rochelle.
I would say yes. There was a time that I felt like giving up, especially in the beginning. I forgot to mention that I did get donor milk in the hospital. It was an option, and me and my husband spoke about it, and we were like, okay, they screen it, they do all these wonderful things to make sure that it's safe before they give it to you, and so we took it. But I was like, oh my God, so much struggle. I did not envision putting my baby on formula. Um, you I know it was possible, but I did not want that. I wanted him to be exclusively breastfed. And so I was just like, not feeling it. And I was like, maybe this is just not for me. Why even try? And it's so painful. Why even try? But my husband was very supportive. I remember the nurse coming into the room and seeing him rubbing my back because I was in so much pain from the pump on me. And she was like, I wish other husbands did that. And I was like, okay. So the encouragement from people around me allowed me to continue pushing, even though it was, unfamiliar, because I'm, first time mom. It was a lot of unfamiliar things. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Prof. Kutaya, you can go ahead.
There were a lot of times I wanted to quit. So each experience was different with all three of my children. With my second, it was the easiest thing on the face of the planet, except for that she would not let anyone else feed her. So when I went back to work, she refused to take a bottle.
Wow.
But my first and my third were very hard, and I did end up having to exclusively pump for the two of them. My third was fine. She just decided that it came out the bottle faster, so she wasn't going to try to breastfeed. She was just lazy. So there were definitely moments where I was like, well, it'll be fine. And I think that's where the research that I didn't do on the front end came in the back end, that there was no data to support, breastfeeding longer than 3 months. And then I'd get to 3 months and I'd be like, well, I could go a little bit longer. And then I'd get to 6 months and then I would think, oh, I could go a little bit longer. So I think every little milestone made it a little bit easier. I too had a really supportive partner. He would be trying to convince me to do what was right for me over trying to do the things that I felt I should be doing. But I 110% agree with Rochelle that made all the difference. Because if I did decide that I was done, I knew that would be okay by him. And so to have that support made it easier to struggle through the rest of it.
That's so wonderful. And Thera, I'll ask you this specifically. How did your partner or any male in your life show support for you during your breastfeeding time?
Just that it was okay, because you have the bottle formula culture, and because it's seen as an easy option. I just had that freedom that I wanted to breastfeed, and I did so for 2 years, 2 months.
Wow.
And this was like going back to work, so it was a rhythm of pumping, like Rochelle, you had the label bags in the freezer. I had a caregiver who knew that, okay, we don't want a bottle, because thinking of what Maya said about laziness, and the bottle being easy. So she did the spoon with the cup, so that it was that sort of a slow process as well, not the sort of an easy bottle delivery. So I had support from the caregiver who understood that we wanted to promote and maintain breastfeeding. And when my daughter started cereals, her cereal was made with breast milk, not with, like formula. So, and then when she started solid foods, breast milk went along with the age appropriate food. So it was always there, because I had been reassured by those wonderful nurses in the prenatal clinics that it's not just the health benefits when they're a baby, but when they get to school, you're going to see the cognitive ability difference between the breastfed babies and the others. So I wanted that long-term benefit for my child as well. All the things they tell you about, immune system, nutrition, and it's cost effective. I mean, when you see the cost of formula, if you're eating well,
Yeah.
it helps with the snapback. I mean, there were just so many good things, and I used it as an opportunity, especially at nights, to start reading to the baby. And it just became this nice way to end the day reading, breastfeeding. It was very zen and nice. So um I don't have the horror stories. I just have the really, the other end of the spectrum, which is, I guess encourages those who always hear all the negative things. I never had the biting, never had the sore nipples. I didn't really have any of those challenges.
Oh, how blessed you are. But I think for me, I I enjoyed my partner. He was very supportive. He asked questions, what I wanted, what I didn't want. I had stitches on both babies or after both babies. So I was sore. So he had to figure out how to get me to do my sits bath and all of that. And I remember, breastfeeding while doing my sits. And it was just like, he lowered me in and then he gave me the baby. And, so it was a lot of different dynamics that we had to work through in our home, but he was very supportive. And I think for me, what men can do, and this is a question that I'm throwing out to all of us before we head into the voice note, what men can do in my estimation is to ask questions, because sometimes they might feel like this is what the mother might need, and it may really not be. Or they might, based on their own experience, whether it be with their mother or sister, they might think that, okay, this is definitely not something that she will need. And then she's like, I really need this. I really need this. So just to ask questions so that the mother can feel more comfortable. And I will throw to the voice note now, and then we can come back if we have the time for it.
The most difficult thing for me was in the early days, um, when you're just starting out and your nipples become sore and cracked, and you have to breastfeed through all of that. Or I chose to breastfeed through all of that. And I don't care what anyone says, you could have the most beautiful latch ever, because your nipple is not used to all of that attention or action. You're going to have sore nipples. I'm sorry. I'd love to meet the mommy who said her nipples never got sore from the breastfeeding process, especially in the early stages.
Well, I guess Tanisha, that's the name of the person who sent the voice note. I guess Tanisha would really love to meet you, Thera. All right, so we only have around 2 minutes before our next break. But what I want us to do in like 15 seconds, what would you tell a young father or brother who is listening right now? What would you tell him about showing up for a mother and baby during breastfeeding? So that's 15 seconds. We'll start with Thera, then Rochelle, then Puff Kutaya, and then we go for a break.
Do as much as you can for the mother. It might seem trivial, but at that stage, especially in the first month or so, when you're recovering, whether it's from a regular vaginal delivery or you've had a section or you've had, to have some kind of like an episiotomy or something, it's a lot. And anything and everything makes such a difference with support. Bringing things, doing things around the house, anything and everything makes a difference because it's such a challenging time.
Okay. And before we get the other comments from the other ladies, we'll have to jump into our break. And it's going to be our final break. My whole time flies. This is Family Time live on Love 101 FM, YouTube, and FB. It's produced by Family Life Ministries. For our feedback question, please answer this. What was the hardest thing for you to do when it was time to breastfeed? Send your answers via WhatsApp text and WhatsApp voice notes to 876-997-3125. And try to keep those voice notes no longer than 30 seconds. Send your answers to WhatsApp text and WhatsApp voice notes to 876-997-3125. And you can also call our studio lines at 876-968-8327 or 876-968-8328. You can also watch us and comment live on Love 101 FM Facebook and Love 101 FM YouTube. We want to hear from you. Before we go, let me tell you about two books from FLM you'll want on your shelves today. The first is Answers to Questions Parents Ask. The second, Questions on Love, Sex, and Marriage. You can purchase them from Brand's Bookstore, the Jamaica Baptist Union Bookstore, and Source of Life Bookstore. There is also a third book, Before They Say I Do, the questionnaire and manual. This one is especially for counselors, psychologists, pastors, and marriage officers. All three books are available through Family Life Ministries. Call them or call us at 876-920-1034 or 876-926-8101. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Remix the summer with Digicel. 100 lucky winners win $100,000 each, plus surprises all summer. Gift a friend a plan. They could win $25,000. And the time by Digicel is now 6:16 and a half.
See the face, but not the heart. Those who want to do you wrong. So many times.
Bless up. This is Christopher Martin. Human trafficking is a crime. Let's unite to end human trafficking. Be wise, open your eyes, spot them, stop them, and report them.
A message from the Ministry of National Security.
No shadow at the dark. No shadow at the dark.
Welcome back. You're tuned to Love 101. This is Family Time, brought to you by Family Life Ministries. FLM provides counseling for people with all kinds of challenges from all walks of life. Remember, you can tune into the program via the Love 101 Facebook page and YouTube channel. The topic today is Breastfeeding Part 2, Real Talk, what mothers are saying and wish they knew. Our special guests are Professor Moya Clark Kutaya, Thera Edwards, and Rochelle Clark. Even with the hard days, many mothers find powerful moments of connection and joy through breastfeeding. Let's close out by talking about the pride, the peace, and the growth that came from it. So my question to you ladies, well, before we go into the questions that talk about, being proud of breastfeeding, we were talking about, what our experiences were in terms of how we would want a young man, a brother, a young father, what we would suggest for them to do to support their wife or girlfriend and their baby. So you can continue. Maya, you can go, and then Rochelle.
I would agree that to just show up in whatever way possible, ask questions, find out what they need. It's really, really difficult in the beginning, and to just have someone to participate in the time was really important. And I mean all the time. In the middle of the night when the baby wakes up, help by going to get the baby and putting the baby in the mother's arms, like to really be a part of it in its entirety. I think those moments count.
Yeah. Thank you, Prof. Kutaya. Go ahead, Rochelle.
I would say for any partner to be open-minded and also to be observant, because sometimes, especially for myself as a new mom, it's like sometimes you don't even know what to ask for because this is so new to you and your partner. And so my husband would observe and he would be like, you know what? I'm gonna wash the bottles right after you finish with this last pumping session for the day, so that when you get up at 2 a.m. in the morning to pump, everything is ready and laid out for you. And I wasn't, yes, he would wash bottles, but sometimes he would just randomly do it, you know. But that particular one, the last one before I went to bed, I was just like, okay, good. I'm glad that you saw that because I was just not thinking about it. It was so easy when I woke up to just get back into the flow and the routine, you know. So that's like very helpful. So just like being observant, because as I stated before, you may not know what you want in those early days.
So true. I totally agree with you, ladies. And this is going to be our last question, actually. Now, when you look back on your breastfeeding journey, what are you most proud of as a mother? And I'll start from Sarah to Rochelle, then to Prof. Kutaya.
All right. I'm most proud of that I was able to breastfeed for the length of time that I did, which included when I went back to work. Um, there were lots of people who thought that, you've made it past 6 months, you've done a year, um, you're good. But I didn't think I wanted to end it. It wasn't difficult. And so I was able to get past all the persons who said, you've done good, you've gone in enough and more than what most persons expect at this time. And so that I was able to sustain it and not have any issues, physical issues, either, with my breast, my nipples, with the baby or the toddler by the end of it. And that the weanings was very easy. It wasn't traumatic, and it just sort of came together, good timing. I was just about having to do travel for work. The start of school was coming up in a few months. So it just was all very, I'd have to say, divine and blessed is the only way to put it.
I agree.
And I'm
I
happy for
totally
that.
agree. Go ahead, Rochelle.
I would say something that I'm very proud of is the fact that my baby was born like 5 pounds and a couple of ounces. And before he left the hospital, he went down to like 4 pounds and a couple ounces. And so the doctors were very concerned about his weight. They were like, oh my God, this small baby, this small baby. That's all I was hearing. And so when I started to exclusively breastfeed, I remember going to his appointments and they're like, what are you giving this baby? And I'm like, breast milk. And he's like, breast milk is the best milk. And I was like, okay. So I felt very, very good about that. And going back to Thera's point, I went back to work and I was able to still keep up with it. Yes, it was challenging. Yes, it was difficult at times, but I kept it going because I just remember this baby was small and this baby is growing and what I'm doing is contributing to that, and so I don't want to stop it. And so that was that felt really, really good, especially on the very challenging days when you just don't feel like pushing through. I just look at him and I'm just like, oh, he's chubby and nice. I want to keep that going.
So I'm gonna co-sign both of what they've said so far, and I think that my proudest moments are one, that I did it on my terms. It definitely was not pretty all the time, and there were moments where I didn't think that we were going to make it, but I allowed myself the space and the grace to make that decision as we went through. That it looked different for all three of my children, but they're all fine. And now when I think about those times, I laugh about how convenient it was, even though in the moment I didn't feel it was convenient. I think about the trips that we took, we traveled all over the world. Like I would go to Germany, we went to Italy, we took all these trips where I would just be breastfeeding kids on the airplane and the airport and restaurants, and how great it was to not have to worry about bottles. And so to have the flexibility of letting it be a part of our lives, even though at times it was a struggle, and to sort of do it on my own terms, and to see these little people that I've now bonded with. You probably just saw my 6-year-old was climbing in the chair behind me. Those, you can't get that time back. And so I'm grateful that we even had it.
Wow. And I'm just going to ask one more question because I really think it's important. To that mother who is in her last term, she's nervous, she's never breastfed before. What advice would you give her? 10 seconds. What advice would you give her?
I'll go first.
Whatever
Sorry.
happens, don't feel pressured to make breastfeeding the only option, because it may not be the option that works. So whatever happens, you're still a success. You've had a healthy baby.
Thank you. Go ahead, Rochelle.
I would say just to be open-minded, as Tara said. Once the baby is fed, that's good. Whether it's the pump, the bottle, or exclusively breastfeeding, whatever works for you works. And for me, to mothers, I would say get you a good pump, formula on hand. And if you want to increase your milk supply, it's good to eat oatmeal every day. That worked for me. That made me an overproducer, along with sprinkling a little bit of brewer's yeast into the oatmeal.
Okay.
It's very bland, brewer's yeast, and I drank fennel tea every day, and that helped me to produce that freeze off milk that was too much. And so get all of those in a big bottle of water, as big as you possibly can, and you should be fine. And if it doesn't work out, you've tried your best.
Indeed. Go ahead.
I would say just give yourself grace. It's one of many struggles you will have as a mother. So give yourself grace.
And I think for me, I would tell her it's going to be okay. Because sometimes you don't feel that way. It doesn't look like it will be okay, but it will be. And you can do it. You have the strength to do it. And there are others that are supporting you and love you. And we all know that you love your baby. Because I think that's one of the things that people kind of get caught up when they're not able to breastfeed. People are like, oh, why aren't you breastfeeding? You don't love your baby. Or there are lots of negative things that people can say. But you do love your baby. You can do it. And it's going to be okay. So that is actually the end. Thanks for being here with us. If you have questions of a personal nature or concerned about a friend or family member, call us. For more information on our services or for our counselors in Kingston and other parts of the island, contact our head office at 876-920-1034 or 876-926-8101. 876-5798-69 and 690 and 876-2798-678. The last two also has WhatsApp, and that's the last two numbers. Note that for appointments and information on costs, you must call the offices. Otherwise, to keep up to date with what's happening with FLM and our programs, check us out on our new Facebook page at FLM-Family Life Ministries. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Family Life Ministries-FLMJA, and on Instagram at simply FLMJA. Before we leave you, here's our verse for today. 1 Thessalonians 2, verse 6 to 7. We were not looking for praise from people, not from you or anyone else, even though as apostles of Christ, we could have asserted our authority. Instead, we were like young children among you, just as a nursing mother cares for her children. Join us again next week for another informative program. Thanks again to our special guests, Professor Maya Clark Kutaya, Thera Edwards, and Rochelle Clark. Thanks also to our show producer, Kathy Gale, Rashid Perry for research and resource assistance, and thanks to Derval Graham for piloting us through this hour. And of course, you. Have a great week. I'm Audra. See you soon. Bye.